connecting with our inner child and our energy work, we're all living in the fantasy zone of our inner child. And that is why we have so much disappointment because we're not living in reality. And the context of that is because we have these crazy expectations generally with relationships. But if you look at attachment theory as an attachment to the dream body, and then instead of having weird interaction with a potential partner, the weird interaction of anxious and avoidant patterns is actually showing up with the adherence to the tools to get to that outcome. So it makes sense from that perspective that we get attached to the fantasy. But I kept being like, however, I believe that the fantasy that we created as a child to escape whatever was happening of a negative feeling that we were having in our body, when I was doing the brain and heart coherency breathing for myself and having fantasies around love, joy, appreciation, kindness, care, I was like, wait a minute, like, if this is fantasy, then whatever fantasy I had as a little child is actually the same fantasy that I'm fantasy emotions, the same fantasy emotions that I had in a little as a little kid to escape reality are the same emotions that I think I'm going to have when I have my dream body. And so I'm sharing this with you, and as I'm hearing myself say it, I'm like, am I saying what I really want to say? The reason why I'm saying it is because I think that when you really use these tools as tools. Like I'm sure you do other type of meditation work or manifestation work. But if you do brain and heart coherency breathing, according to Heart Math Institute, we're going to get the benefits with the nervous system, but on that spiritual, non-physical level and using the common tools that we have of attachment theory and imagination, then I feel like we're able to make things happen really fast, a lot faster. Because also, when we attempt to do the brain and heart coherency breathing and we're trying to imagine something that's going to make us feel love, joy, appreciation, kindness, care, and we immediately can't, I think that that's a really good sign because your negative unconscious energy is so close to the surface that if you can't even do that, then I'm like, oh my God, perfect. Write down all your fears, write down what you're thinking, how you're overthinking, how you're judging yourself for not being able to do it. Because then we can automatically go back to the tools with the astrology and the voids and values, and we can have conversations about it to be like, okay, like what does this remind you of? How can we validate these emotions that it makes perfect sense given what you've gone through to be feeling this way? And now how can you pre-parent yourself through food, through exercise, through giving yourself a bath, through, giving yourself a makeover, or like, do you know what I mean? Like we want to be able to close the gap as these things come up. And as we're closing the gap on our emotional experience and our thought process, then our energy, our unconscious energy that gets such a bad rap, but is side by side slash is our intuition slash is our spiritual gifts, then it's like we can start to assimilate these energies. And for me, it feels like this nice, soft, puffy cotton ball around me that when I experience negative emotions for myself, I'm like I can process pretty much in the moment, and do the inner child work of it makes sense I'm feeling this way, validating that and then processing it and then moving forward. And then also, I feel like that nice, cotton ball around me when I bump up against somebody who has negative emotion, who might be projecting onto me, specifically onto me, or is just projecting in general. And I feel that gross feeling. I'm like, I am so glad I can sense a difference between me and them. And that has really, I think, evolved for me from doing the brain and heart coherency breathing. Because if we're in such a high emotional state, even if it's care, like Heart Math Institute says, if you can't reach love, joy, then care. You know what it's like to take care of an animal. You know what it's like when somebody just opened the door for you. So start with care. So you don't have to go for a super high emotion. But when we are in that imaginative state of those higher frequencies, we're creating a contrast with our energy so that we can experience it sooner and then process it so that we can move forward.